Hello and welcome to PA Academy. So in this video we are going to be looking at concept of current, voltage and resistance. So if you are new to this channel PA Academy and you are yet to subscribe, I'll kindly click on the subscribe button and the little bell icon beside the subscribe button to subscribe to PA Academy. So now we are going to be looking at what these three concepts are: current, voltage and resistance. We are going to be looking at the relationship between the three, and then we are going to be looking at some examples. So when we talk about current, so this is the rate at which charge flow through a surface. So if you have a wire, so this wire, their charge is flowing through it. Those charges that are flowing through it is what we call the current, and current is measured in amperes. So this is the unit, amperes. So that is it for current. Now let's look at voltage. It said this is the pressure from electric circuit power source that pushes charged electron, which is the current, through a conducting loop, and it is measured in volts. That is V. The unit, that's V. So when you just write the unit, you write V. So voltage. Now this charge that are flowing through this wire, it said the pressure from the electrical source that pushes the charge. So the pressure from the electrical source that pushes the charge is what is the voltage. Either the charges are moving very fast or very slow. It is determined by what? By the voltage from the power source that will determine the pressure that these charges will be flowing. Take for example, if you have a pipe and you have water running through it, if the pressure from the water is very high, you see that the water will be flowing very fast. But once the pressure is very low, you can see that the water will just be, can just be dropping. Once it gets to the tip of the pipe, it can just be dropping like this. But when it is very fast, you can see that the water can just, even if the pipe should end here, if the pipe ends there, the water can just, because of the pressure, can just go like this and be dropping from this part. So that is it when we are talking about. So for electric circuit now, if you talk about the voltage, it's the pressure from the what? From the circuit power source. From circuit power source that pushes the charged electron. Now let's look at resistance. It says resistance, this is the opposition to the flow of current in an electric circuit. Opposition to the flow of current. So now if this current that is flowing through this wire for example, now the resistance, the work of the resistance is to oppose the flow of this charge, to limit them from passing through the metallic conductor or the wire. So that's the simple explanation of current, voltage and resistance. So now in the next thing you are going to be looking at is what is the relationship between these three. How do they relate? So we're talking about the relationship between current, voltage and resistance. So one thing that brings the three of these things together is Ohm's law. So I have a separate video that explains Ohm's law. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. So if you look at Ohm's law, and then the formula that brings them together is this formula, which is V is equals to IR, where we have our voltage is equals to current times resistance, and you can also rewrite this as current is equals to voltage over resistance, and you can write it as resistance is equals to voltage over current. So this is the relationship between the current, voltage and the resistance. And when we look at Ohm's law, what Ohm's law is saying is that if you have a circuit, an increase in current will give us once there's an increase in voltage, we're going to be having an increase in current. So once we start doing example, we are going to be seeing more of this. So let me just explain this again. So let's say we have a wire like this. This represents our wire. So now we are looking at the relationship. You can see this is just one wire. How do these three things works inside the one wire? So if you have one wire like this, now this charge that are flowing, they are charges flowing in this wire. Those charges are what we refer to as the current. Now the pressure that pushes these charges is what we call the voltage. Now these charges that are flowing, something can be what is resisting it from flowing, or that is limiting the flow from flowing, is what we refer to as the resistance. So this is how this the relationship between the current, the voltage, and then resistance. And this is Ohm's law. The Ohm's law that brings everything together as V is equals to IR. You can also have I is equals to V over R, and then R is equals to V over I. So here's an example, and it says verify that the current through a 10 ohm resistor increases when the voltage is increased from 5 volts to 30 volts. So let's look at this example under Ohm's law. So if you remember Ohm's law, that when I said the current passing through a metallic conductor, example e.g. wire, is directly proportional to the potential difference across it, provided that the temperature and other physical conditions are kept constant. So basically what that means is that once you have, like I explained earlier, if you have, let's say this is a wire, and then we have an increase in the voltage across this wire. Once we have an increase in voltage, then definitely we are going to have an increase in current. And that's what this question is saying. It says verify that the current through a 10 ohm resistor increase. So look at this word, increase, when the voltage is increased. So they are just asking us to, let's check using that Ohm's law to see that what will happen if we increase the voltage from 5 to 30. Will the current also increase? So that's what this question is talking about. So first thing we are looking at, let's bring out the parameters. We are given that the resistance is what? The resistance of the resistor is 10 ohms. And then we have the voltage to be 5 volts, and then it was also increased. The initial voltage is 5, it was increased to 30. So let's look for the current. So let me write this as our V1 is 5 volts, and then our V2 is 30 volts. So what we are calculating for now is the current when the voltage is at 5 volts. We are also going to be looking now for the current, which is I. So when the voltage is at 30 volts. So now let's bring out the formula again. We have it as V is equals to IR. So if you have V is equals to IR, since we are calculating for for I, which is the current, so our I is equals to voltage over resistance, that is V over R. So now let's look for the first one here, which is, let's calculating for I1. So our I1, which is the current when the voltage is at 5 volts, is equals to, that is V1 over R, that is 5 over 10. So our I1 is equals to 0.5 amperes. So now we've gotten our I1, which is the current when the voltage is at 5 volts with a resistance of 10 ohms. We've calculated it and we've gotten 0.5 amperes. Now let's now verify if the current will increase now that we have an increase in voltage. So now let me write this as, so right here we are calculating, so we are calculating for I2. So I2 is equals to V2 over R. So let's put in our figures. So our V2 is 30 and our resistance is 10. So that was 30 over 10. So we'll get our I2 is equals to, so 30 divided by 10, that will give us 3 amperes. So you can see that our current has increased from 0.5 amperes to 3 amperes. So that's to tell you, this is just to verify Ohm's law, that once there is an increase in the voltage, we have an increase from 5 volts to 30 volts. You can see it results in an increase in also in the current. You can see the current also increased from 0.5 amperes to 3 amperes. So that is it. So the solution. So this is an example on that that talks about current, voltage, and resistance. If you want to see more example of this, kindly check the description of this video. You'll find some about 4 examples I did under Ohm's law, and that will give you more understanding under current, voltage, and resistance. So that is it for this video. And if you have any question, kindly leave it in the comment section below. If you are yet to subscribe to PA Academy, kindly click on the subscribe button and the little bell icon beside the subscribe button to subscribe to this channel. And with that, guys, I'll see you all in another video. Thank you.